All right, let's talk about one of the most brilliant and, frankly, one of the most controversial figures in all of ancient history, a guy named Themistocles. He was an Athenian politician and a general, the absolute architect of a victory that saved Greece. But here's the thing, he was also completely undone by his own success. And that is the huge question hanging over his life, isn't it? This is the man who single-handedly engineered a victory that stopped the Persian conquest of Greece. And yet he died in exile, on the payroll of the very empire he defeated. How does the hero of Athens become its number one enemy? Well, to figure that out, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning. To really get why he fell so hard, you first have to understand his incredible rise. See, Themistocles wasn't born into the Athenian elite. Not even close. He was a total outsider who had to scrap and fight for every bit of influence he got in Athens' brand new, kind of chaotic democracy. Yeah, Themistocles was a completely new kind of politician. He wasn't some aristocrat with a fancy family name. No, he built his entire power base among the lower class citizens. You know, the common people who were just starting to feel their own strength in this new democracy. And you can bet that put him on a direct collision course with the old noble families who were used to running the show. And man, could he play the game. He went where no politician had really bothered to go before, down to the markets, to the docks, and he courted the poor. They say he even memorized every single voter's name. He just got this new system better than anyone, and he used that skill to put himself right at the heart of Athenian power. So the moment he gets elected archon, which is the top job in Athens, he immediately starts pushing his big idea, sea power. It was his signature policy. By building a new port and a bigger fleet, he wasn't just getting ready for some future war. No, this was a brilliant political move. A powerful navy meant power for the thousands of regular citizens who would serve as its rowers, and those guys were his most loyal supporters. But this grand vision of a naval empire, well, it wasn't exactly popular with everybody. In fact, it led to one of the most high-stakes political showdowns in the city's entire history. And it all comes down to this number, 200. In 483 BC, Athens basically hits the jackpot. A huge new vein of silver is discovered in the state-owned mines. So Themistocles makes this radical proposal. Instead of just giving everyone a small cash payout, he says they should use the entire windfall to build a massive fleet of 200 cutting-edge warships called triremes. Now, his big rival, a man named Aristides, a guy so respected they called him the Jest, he had a much more popular idea. Just give the money to the people. So Athens had a choice, a nice little bonus in your pocket right now, or a crazy expensive long-term investment in military gear for a threat that, to a lot of people, probably seemed pretty far off. The way they decided this is just peak ancient Athens. They used a process called ostracism. It was basically a citywide vote where they could kick one politician out of the city for 10 years. Themistocles brilliantly turned the vote into a referendum on his naval policy, and he won. Aristides was sent packing, and the fleet got built. That one decision, it would change the course of history. And that fleet was built just in the nick of time, because just a few years later, the full terrifying might of the Persian Empire under King Xerxes came crashing down on Greece. With the massive Persian army getting closer and closer, Themistocles made his most audacious proposal yet. He convinced the Athenians to do the unthinkable, evacuate their entire city, their homes, their temples, everything, and to put their entire existence, their very survival, into the wooden walls of the fleet he had pushed them to build. With Athens literally burning behind them, Themistocles set up his masterpiece. He knew the smaller Greek fleet stood no chance in open water, so he laid an elaborate trap. He sent a trusted servant to King Xerxes with a secret message, pretending to be a traitor. He told the king the Greeks were panicking and were about to flee in the middle of the night. He tricked Xerxes into sending his whole fleet into these narrow straits to block their so-called escape. The Persian navy sailed right into it. In those cramped waters, their huge numbers actually became a weakness. They couldn't maneuver, they got disorganized, and the Greek fleet, under Themistocles' command, just tore them apart. It was a stunning, decisive victory. His foresight, his political maneuvering years earlier, and his battlefield cunning all came together in one perfect moment to save Greece. So, Themistocles was the hero of all Greece, the toast of the town. You'd think he'd be set for life, right? Well, not exactly. His fall from grace was just as spectacular and just as fast as his rise.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It is wild. Within about a decade of his greatest triumph, the savior of Greece was ostracized, kicked out, by the very people he had saved. It's an absolutely stunning reversal of fortune.
So, what on earth happened? Well, it was kind of a perfect storm. His success seems to have gone straight to his head. He got arrogant, he boasted about his achievements constantly. His fellow Athenians, well, they started to get pretty jealous and nervous about his power. And, maybe most importantly, Athens' great rival Sparta saw him as a major threat and actively worked to bring him down, eventually accusing him of treason.
Here's a classic story that shows you how he operated. After the war, he orders the walls of Athens to be rebuilt. Sparta objects. They don't want a fortified Athens getting too strong. So Themistocles goes to Sparta as an ambassador, and he uses all these delaying tactics and diplomatic tricks to stall them until the walls are finished. It was a brilliant move for Athens, but it earned him the permanent hatred of Sparta.
So he's ostracized, and now he has these Spartan accusations hanging over his head. Themistocles was declared a traitor and had to flee for his life. And what he does next is maybe the most shocking, ironic twist in his entire story. Hunted by his own people, Themistocles fled to the one place nobody would ever expect, the Persian Empire. He literally walked up to King Artaxerxes, the son of the king he had defeated at Salamis, and offered his services. The greatest enemy of Persia became its most valued advisor. It's just incredible. And the Persian king was so delighted by this turn of events, he made Themistocles the governor of a city called Magnesia. And even in exile, this guy's ambition was on full display. He might have been the first Greek ruler ever to issue coins with his own face on them. I mean, that was just unheard of at the time. But for a guy like Themistocles, it fits perfectly. In the end, maybe the best take on him comes from the historian Thucydides. He said that Themistocles had this natural, intuitive brilliance that was just something else. He could see what was coming, he could master the present, and he could act decisively in a way that was, as Thucydides put it, extraordinary and unparalleled. So, we're left with this massive question. Themistocles' genius absolutely saved his city, saved his civilization. But his ambition, his arrogance, and the jealousy he stirred up, that's what led to his ruin. It really makes you wonder, are the very qualities that make someone great also the seeds of their own destruction?